Welcome to our computer-delivered IELTS Tutorial 1. This tutorial will show you how to complete and prepare for computer-delivered IELTS. For each section, there's a clock at the top of the screen, which tells you how much time you have left. For the reading and writing tests, the clock will turn red and flash when you have 10 and 5 minutes left. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes. The instructions for each part are in the box at the top of the screen. You can use the navigation bar at the bottom of the screen to move from one question to the next. Click on the number to go to that question. You can also click on the forward arrow to go to the next question, or the back arrow to go to the previous question. When you have answered the question, a line will appear under that question in the navigation bar. You can click on Review if you want to look at the question again later. The question number will be shown as a circle. You can review and change your answers at any time until the end of the test. Click on the yellow arrow if you want to make the navigation bar smaller. You can use the scroll bar to see all the questions. In each of the tests, you can change the screen settings. To do this, click on the Settings tab at the top of the screen. You can change the size and color of the text. In each of the tests, there is a Help tab. If you click on the Help tab, this will give you information about the task you are currently doing. If you click on Test Help, you will see information about how the test works. If you wish, you can also highlight sections of text. If you need to leave the test room for a few minutes, you can hide your screen by clicking on the Hide tab. When you return to the test room, click on the Resume Test button. That is the end of the introduction tutorial for computer-delivered IELTS. Check out the IDP IELTS YouTube channel for tutorial videos for listening, reading and writing. For the listening test, you can change the volume by using the volume bar in the top right at any time during the test. For each part of the listening test, you will hear the recording once only. Some parts of the test have more than one type of question. Hear the recording. Each type of question has its own instructions. In the listening test, listen carefully for the part number and question numbers to make sure you are looking at the right screen. For some questions, you need to write your answer in the gap. For some questions, you need to choose which diagram label, A, B, C, etc., is correct for which item listed in the table. For each question, click on the correct space in the table. For some questions, you need to click on an answer and move it into the gap. If you want to change an answer, move another answer into the gap. For some questions, if you want to leave the question unanswered, move the question back. And for some questions, you need to move an answer into a gap on a diagram. At the end of the listening test, you'll have 2 minutes to check all of your answers. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes. In the reading test, the text appears on the left and the questions on the right. To see all the text and the questions, you'll need to use both scroll bars. For some questions, you need to choose an answer. If you want to change your answer, click on a new answer. If you want to leave a question unanswered, click on the answer again. To look at the next question, just click on the question itself. For some questions, you need to choose more than one answer. If you want to change any of your answers, click on the answer you want to change and then click on your new answer. If you want to leave any of the questions unanswered, click on the answer again. For some questions in the reading test, you need to choose which paragraph or section contains the information listed in the table. Remember to scroll to read all the text. For each question, click on the correct space in the table. If you want to change an answer, click on your new answer. If you want to leave the question unanswered, click on the answer again. For some questions in the reading test, you need to click on a heading for a paragraph or section and move it into the gap. If you want to change your answer, move another heading into the gap. If you want to leave the question unanswered, move the heading back. And for some questions, you need to write your answer on a gap in a diagram. If you wish, you can also highlight sections of text. To do this, left-click and drag your cursor over the section of text or question you wish to highlight. Then right-click and select the highlight option. To remove highlighting from the text, right-click on the highlighted area and select Clear. If you wish to remove all highlighting from the screen, right-click on a highlighted area and select Clear All. You can also make notes on a section of text. To do this, left-click and drag the cursor over the section of text or question you want to make notes about. Then right-click and select the Notes option. Your chosen section of text will be highlighted and a yellow notepad will appear. You can write your notes on this. Click on the cross in the notepad to hide your notes. To see your notes again, click on the highlighted section of text. If you want to see which areas of highlighted text have notes, move the cursor slowly over each area of highlighted text. If a small orange box appears, it means that the highlighted text contains notes. To remove notes from text or questions, right-click on the highlighted area and select Clear. There are two parts to the writing test. Part 1 and Part 2. You can answer the parts in either order. You write your answer in the space on the right of the screen. Your answers are saved automatically. You do not need to press Enter on your keyboard. For the reading and writing tests, the clock will turn red and flash when you have 10 and 5 minutes left.
Hey everyone, my name is Patrick Gonzalez. You can call me Pat, and I will be your host and moderator for this monthly IDP's IELTS Writing Workshop with our IELTS Expert. Together with my other co-host we have from Vietnam, Nga Duan. Then we also have from Indonesia, Janice. Then from IDP Malaysia, we have Chow and Shenny. Then we also have from IDP Vietnam, we have Thao. And from IDP Malaysia, Zarni. Before we begin, let me give you some information about our IELTS expert. She has been an IELTS teacher and trainer for more than a decade. Armed with an in-depth understanding of IELTS, she has helped hundreds of people from across Asia to prepare well for it. She enjoys sharing tips and strategies to help test takers reach the band score they need. Today, she will be walking you through IELTS writing for both academic and general training. So keep your ears open for some amazing tips. Without further ado, let us all welcome our IELTS expert, Jacqueline Fisher. Over to you, Jacqueline.
Thank you, Patrick. That introduction is always very embarrassing, but very nice. Hi, everybody. It's lovely to be here with you this evening. I was just looking to see people joining us from across the region. So that's great. And I hope that you're, that you're all well and that everything's going well for you. So I'm actually in Australia. I'm actually not in Sydney, but I am in Australia. Usually I'm in Singapore, but I'm still visiting my family after almost 2 years. So I'm really happy to be down under. Eventually I'll be back in Singapore. So I see here people joining us from many different places, which is really nice. Someone from Glasgow and living in Thailand. Great, wonderful. So today we're going to explore the writing test. So everything about the writing test. And this is really your session, as I always say. So although we'll cover, lots of things about the writing test, please feel free to ask your questions of me. And if you can use the chat box, that would be great. Because then I can, it's easier for me to see the questions. If you put them in the Q&A box, my wonderful colleagues will be able to answer them, but I probably won't be able to see them until the end. So, we've got people from Philippines and Indonesia. That's great. So I've been working with IELTS for quite a lot of years, so I'm pretty confident I can answer your questions. And, today is really about the writing test, but if at the end you have questions about the other tests, feel free to ask as well. Oh, someone from Tonga. That's very exciting. I don't think we've ever had someone from Tonga before. Welcome. So let's get into this. So we will have some polls questions and polls as well, just to find out about you and to do a bit of review. So maybe, I don't know if that first poll is ready, just so I can find out a little bit about you and which test you're doing and the band score you need. So there's a few questions there about whether you've taken the test before. Now, of course, we all want the highest score possible, but what's the minimum that you need? And then which test you're doing. So I'll just let that run for a little while because there are quite a few of us here. Someone from Kuwait, from Thailand, that's great. Yeah, so it does seem okay. Most people need between a 6 and an 8. That's generally the case. And we have quite a lot more doing academic. So don't worry, we'll cover both the tests today. But I do see that more people are doing academic. And most people have not taken it before, but quite a few of you have taken the test before. So if there's a question that you're a bit worried about, you don't understand like why maybe you didn't get the band score, maybe if you have a specific question, you can ask me that as well. So feel free, the chat box is the place to put all your questions. So I'll just end the poll. Let's have a look. Yeah, so the majority of people haven't done it before. And then, yes, this is usually the case. Most people need, between a 6 and an 8. And then most people are doing academic. Yeah, academic is really quite popular at the moment. But don't worry, we'll cover the general test as well. So don't worry about that. Okay, so... Oops, sorry. Okay, so so the writing test, can you tell me a little bit about what you know about it? Like how long is it and how many things do you have to do in the test? So as we see here, it's different for general and academic. So general, we're writing a letter and we're writing an essay. And then for academic, what are we doing? Academic, we are doing the score depends. Yeah, for academic, we're also writing an essay and we're describing something in words. So we're going to talk about all of these different things this evening. But can you tell me how long is the writing test altogether? How long do you have to do these two tasks? You just have 1 hour. That's right. Yes, and I can see from what people are saying that nobody will tell you like, oh, you should change. Now you need to do task 1. Now you need to do task 2. You need to manage your time. And we try to spend 20 minutes on task 1 and 40 minutes on task 2 because task 2 is worth a lot more. Yeah, so task 2 is worth 66%. So we really want to focus on that. Yep. Okay, but we'll cover all of these today. Now, yeah, I'm curious, if you don't know yet, it's fine, but which one are you thinking of doing, computer delivered or paper-based? So in some countries, they're not offering both, but in many places they are. So I see Daniel says paper, Gail says paper, computer, paper. So I see a mixture. Now, that's the same test. So the content is exactly the same, but the differences come in, how you do it. The computer test, you get the results faster, 3 to 5 days. And you can often do it more often, so up to 7 days a week. And then people always ask me, so which is better? Which one's easier? And that really depends on you. So are you very comfortable on the computer? Can you type well, pretty fast? Are you comfortable reading on the screen? Because you have to do all your tests on the computer. Yeah, so you have to work out what you're good at. Are you comfortable, using the mouse and clicking and doing all the functions that you do on a computer? If so, then maybe the computer delivered is good for you. But if you're not, all that is like, wow, that makes you panic, then I wouldn't do computer delivered. I'd do paper-based. So it really depends on you. Okay, so yeah, let's think about the writing. So we're talking all about the writing tonight. Now, what is the examiner looking at when they read your writing? They actually only care about 4 things. Now, if you were here on Monday for the overall masterclass, this is a bit of revision. So hopefully you remember what are the 4 things that the examiner's looking at. They only look at 4 things. Do you know some of them? Yes, they're looking at your grammar. Exactly. Yes, definitely their grammar. Cohesion, yes. Fluency is actually more for speaking, but we could think about it like cohesion, the fact that it flows when you write. Your vocab, definitely. Yes, that's right. And your task achievement. So did you answer the question? So let's go through these a little bit because we're going to keep thinking about these all the way through. Yeah, so you have to keep thinking about these 4 things. If you do these well, the examiner will give you your band score that you need. Okay, so task response, basically this means, did you answer the question? Did you give good reasons? And did you, elaborate well? Yeah, so really in IELTS, one of the biggest tips is that just follow the instructions, do what you are told, don't change the question. Yeah, so following instructions is very important. So that's the first one. Next, as some of you were saying, coherence and cohesion. So this is a few things. Does it flow nicely? Did you have paragraphs, good paragraphs? Did you use linking words to guide the reader through your points? Next one is your lexis. So this is your vocab. Yeah, so for a 7, which quite a lot of you said you need to use some more unusual words. So not just like things like interesting, nice, good. It's a little bit boring. You want some more unusual words. Now, when it comes to the lexis in the writing, it's also your spelling. So many of us are not very good at spelling anymore because of, phones and spell check. And there's no spell check, even on the computer. So we have to practice our spelling. And then the last one is your grammar, as many of you said, but there's 2 parts to this. So one part is being correct. So if you want 7, or you need to be about 70, 75% correct. If you want 8, 80, 85% correct. Yeah, so one part is accuracy, but we see this other word here, range. Yeah, so this is using sentences that are a bit more complex. So instead of saying, I like Australia, or I like Melbourne, that's where I am. I like Melbourne, the weather is crazy. That's true. But that's 2 simple sentences. If I combine them and I say, although I love Melbourne, the weather tends to be crazy. Oh, that's a much nicer sentence, a more complex sentence. Okay, so that's what we want to do. We want these more complex sentences. How do you do that? It's not that difficult. Things like although, however, whereas, while, if sentences, these are all considered complex. Now, why are we talking so much about this? Because the examiners mark each of these 4 out of 9. So to get your 7, 9 is a perfect score in IELTS. So to get your 7, you need to have 7 for answering the question, 7 for your structure and your linkers and your paragraphs, 7 for the vocab, and 7 for the grammar. Okay, so you need to be, 7 means good. So you need to be good in all of those areas. So we're just going to keep thinking about these 4 all the way through. Yeah, so, okay. Yeah, so that's just a bit about the marking, and I'll keep coming back to this. So writing. So we're going to talk about the general. So task 1 first, and we're going to split it up. So we'll talk about general first. Now, if you're doing academic, you can have a little chillax for be about 10, 15 minutes talking about the general writing. So, you're welcome to stay and listen, but if you want to go get a drink or a snack and come back, about 10, 15 minutes. All right, so general people, you tell me, please, what are you doing again? Can you remind me your task 1? Task 1 general. What are you doing? You're writing a letter. Now, this is a bit unusual, right? We don't really write letters anymore. Emails, yes, but this is a letter. So, and how many words are you doing? 150 words, that's right. Okay, great. So this is what your letter looks like when you get it. And you always have 3 jobs. So I want you to keep thinking about these 3 jobs. Yeah, so it's always 20 minutes. You should remember task 1 is not worth as much as task 2. So we really want to try to do it within 20 minutes. And we've got to have at least 150 words. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It will always tell you how to start. So please just follow that. Don't change it. Remember, following instructions is important. So, dear sir or madam. Okay. Then, so next we have this part. There have been some problems with the public transport in your area recently. Write a letter to the manager of the public transport company. In your letter, describe the problems, explain how the problems are affecting the public, suggest what changes could be made. So if you were here on Monday, this was the one I think that you probably looked at. So this is a little bit of review, but don't worry, we'll look at lots of other ones as well. Now, when you get this topic, it's divided into these 3 sections. So there's a description about, what the letter is going to be about. There's some instructions, what you have to do. And then there's these detailed tasks. There's always these bullet points. How many bullet points? There are always 3. Yeah, always 3 bullet points. Okay, so when you get the letter, please look at how you start. So here, dear sir or madam, and then look at who you're writing to. Write a letter to the manager of the public transport company. This will tell you your tone. And this is the first important thing, your tone. So what's your tone going to be here? What's your tone? I've actually told you up the top, but it won't tell you in the real test. Yeah, so it's probably semi-formal or professional. Yeah, but if you look at who you're writing to and how you start, it will give you the tone. Careful about being too formal. You want to be like professional, but you don't want to sound old-fashioned. It's got to be like a letter that you would really send in Canada or New Zealand or whichever country you're planning to go to. Okay, so don't be too formal. All right, so then that's the first job, is work out our tone. Second job, we have to work out why we are writing, our purpose. And this is always up the top here. There have been some problems with public transport in your area. Why are we writing? What's our purpose? Usually we can state our purpose with to do something. To inform, yeah, Gerald, yeah, to inform, maybe to share about some problems, exactly. Good, so in the second job is we work out the purpose. Third job is, yeah, bring attention to problems, yep. The third job is to look at the bullets carefully. So describe the problems. Can you see this S? Very important. We can't just talk about one problem. We have to talk about at least 2, right? Explain how the problems are affecting the public. That's our second job. Suggest what changes could be made, more than one change. Okay, so we have to cover these in our letter. So let's have a look at the model. Oh yeah, so just to recap, we've got the purpose at the top. It's always, we find that at the top. Our overall purpose for writing the letter. Then looking at the bullets, understanding the bullet points, and making sure we have the right tone. So let's have a look at the model. So remember they said, dear sir or madam, so we just start like that. Our first paragraph, we should have the purpose. We should be able to find the purpose. Where's the purpose? Can you tell me where the purpose is? Usually we say it with a to. Yeah, to draw your attention to recent problems. Yep. And see this part, it's nice to start with a bit of background. So you say who you are. Oops, sorry. I lost my slide, sorry. Say who you are without without saying your name. So I'm a resident of Newtown and I'm writing to draw your attention. Okay, so who you are and why you're writing. So that's your purpose in the first paragraph. Next paragraph, we look at the first bullet point, the problems. Remember there were 2 problems? So it's nice to introduce your problems with a linking word. Can you spot the 2 linking words? Can you write those in the chat? What are the linking words? So briefly, roadworks have led to long delays. Furthermore, new weekend bus timetable has dramatically reduced the frequency. So what are our linkers here? Furthermore, yeah, and of course, and briefly is the first one. Briefly and furthermore. So that's nice. It's nice to use linking words in your letter. And in the letter, you have to kind of use your imagination. You have to think of what the problems are yourself and give a bit more information. But the secret is it must sound real, like you would really send this letter in whatever country you're going to. Okay, so our next bullet point was the effect on the public. So again, we would use linkers to introduce the effects. So here's like a topic sentence saying what the paragraph is about. The effect becomes very obvious during peak hours and busy shopping hours. Public transport users find it takes 20 minutes more to travel. Can you see the linker? As well. Shoppers who travel by bus find it's not worth the trouble, leading to a drastic downturn in retail trade. Now, remember that vocab is another thing the examiner is looking at. Can you spot there are some nice phrases in this paragraph. Can you spot some of them or type them in the chat? Drastic downturn. Yes, this sounds very nice together. Words that go together well, we call collocation. So these 2 words sound very nice together. Drastic downturn. Retail trade, yes, also very nice. Not worth the trouble, also a nice phrase. Okay, so this is something you have to think about when you're writing your letter. Third bullet point are the suggestions. So again, we have to have more than one, right? May I suggest buses be rerouted along Great Eastern Road until roadworks are complete? I would also, there's another linker, recommend a return to the old weekend timetable. I'm sure these steps will be warmly welcomed. Okay, so this is the third bullet point. Then how do we end? We point to the next step. What should happen next? I look forward to hearing from you regarding my suggestions. Don't forget to sign off. So dear sir or madam, sign off will be yours faithfully. That's a good match in terms of the tone. So if you put like, see you or love you, it would sound very weird, right? The tone would sound strange. And then don't forget your name because it's a letter. So really that's how we do it. It usually has 5 paragraphs in the letter. Now, if you forget one bullet point, like, you forgot the suggestions, don't do that because you'll get a 4 under your task achievement. That's not good. And then you've got to keep the same tone, the consistent tone all the way through. So this is a bit more formal, isn't it? So the language is a bit more formal. And if your tone like changes all over the place, you get a 5. So you want to have the correct tone. All right, so this is really the steps for doing the letter. It's not so difficult, really. We want to think about the tone, the purpose, and who we are writing to. Cover all the bullets. Can I repeat the 4th bullet something? There's always 3 bullet points. Then the last paragraph, we point to the future. We'll look at some more, don't worry. And then, we want to make sure that it sounds correct as a letter. Okay, so let's think about the purpose. So this is sometimes hard. The purpose is always at the top, right? But we have to try to figure out what the overall purpose is. So let's just practice a few. You want your friend to come to your partner's surprise birthday party. What's our purpose? To do what? Okay, right now, Neelam, we're doing a general task 1. We will soon do academic task 1. So you can just chill for a little while. So what's your purpose? If you have this is your to invite someone. Exactly. Quite straightforward. How about this one? What's the purpose of your letter? Why are you writing? To do what? You recently stayed in a hotel and the service was unsatisfactory. Yeah, we're writing to complain. But be careful when you complain. It has to sound real, like you can't be over the top. You won't get a good score. It has to sound real. Yeah. Okay, so thinking about the tone, because the tone is really important. Now, remember that first one is about inviting someone. If it was written like this, what do you think of this? I request the pleasure of your attendance at the birthday party that I will host for my longtime partner. I would very much appreciate it if you could keep this invitation a secret. Yes, Meghana, this is a bit too formal for a friend. Maybe if it was a very formal occasion, but this is just a surprise birthday party. This is too formal. Have a look at this one. Dear Anne, I hope all is well. I'm not sure if you remember, but Danny's big birthday party is around the corner. Yes, he's going to hit the big 40. He says he doesn't want a party, but that's too bad because I'm hoping you'll be part of the super secret surprise bash I'm organizing for him. Can you see that this sounds like someone is talking? That's the secret if you do an informal letter. You must write in full sentences though. You see there are full sentences, but it just sounds like someone's talking. Yeah, so and notice this, I'm, yeah, Danny's, he's. In the informal letter, we call it contract like this. It's fine because it sounds like someone's talking. In some ways, the informal letter is a bit harder because would we really write a letter? No, right? We'd send a WhatsApp message. Okay, now what about this one? This was the one, remember the purpose was to complain. I'm very sorry about this, but I really do have to complain about the service. What do you think about that tone for complaining? Informal? Yes, it's okay. It's kind of neutral. It's too apologetic. Yeah, Meghana, I kind of agree with you. Obviously, the hotel was very bad. Why do you have to apologize? I think you should be a bit more detached and a bit more like disappointed. So have a look at this tone. I'm writing to express my disappointment about the service I received during my stay at your hotel last week. Can you see that's a bit more formal? Yeah, and a bit more like the tone is more professional. Yeah, this sounds a bit strange. Okay, so the tone is really important. Now, next, let's think about the bullets. We have to cover the bullets fully. And your bullets, there should be kind of like an equal amount for each bullet point. Yeah, so you shouldn't write a lot about one bullet and just a tiny bit about another bullet. It should be kind of equal. So let's have a look at this one. You think you left your briefcase on the train yesterday. Write a letter to the lost property office. In the letter, describe what the briefcase looked like and what was in it. Just explain where you think you left the briefcase, what you want the lost property office to do. Now be careful. Can you see in this bullet there's an and? Make sure you do both parts, what it looked like and what was in it. Okay, where you left it and what you want the lost property office to do. So have a look at this one. Okay, so do you think that the three things, so what it looked like and what was in it, where you left it, and what you want the lost property office to do you think they are all covered equally? Is there an equal amount of information? Have a quick read through and then let me know what you think. Is there an equal amount of information for all the three bullet points? What do you think? So the first bullet point was what it looks like, what it looked like, and what was in it. The second one was where it was left, and the third one was what should be done about that. What do you reckon? The second bullet point is a less. Okay, so the first bullet point is a bit confusing because they describe what it looked like, handed silver buckle, name tag. Then what is in it, they put down here. See, assignments, apart from my assignments, novel, packed lunch. Okay, so yeah, there's quite a lot about that one. You're right. Quite a lot about bullet point 1. Bullet point 2 is here. That's not too bad. But bullet point 3, it is my hope that the briefcase will be returned to its rightful owner. There's not really enough about that third bullet point, not enough detail. Probably you'd need to add like how to contact you, or, you know, how, when, or that kind of thing, a bit more detail. There's only this one short line. So it's not equal amount. Yes, the third bullet point isn't quite enough. Yep. So make sure you have equal amount for each bullet point. Now look at this one. So sometimes people worry because how many words are you writing? 150. So you have to reach that 150. So sometimes people will just add irrelevant things. Now, if you read this one, there's some unnecessary information. What do you think is a bit strange? Remember, the secret with the letter is it has to sound real, like you would really send it. Yeah, Natasha, I think you're right too. The first bullet point in the other one about the briefcase, there's a lot, and the other two, not quite so much. So that's true. Not quite balanced. Yeah, books. Yeah, maybe this part about the book, the location of the advertisement, this part, I'd like to apply for the position right next to the article. This part is unnecessary and strange. And they're just adding it so they get more words. Yeah, and it sounds weird. And then this part about the favorite book, maybe that's not necessary in the letter either. It's maybe a bit strange also. So be careful about just throwing in information to get to the word limit. Okay, so sometimes, as we said, it's more semi-formal, and sometimes it's like this. Let's apply our 3 things. You're going on a holiday and you would like to ask a friend to look after your house. Write a letter to your friend, explain the situation, tell your friend what needs to be done, arrange to meet your friend before you go. Okay, so dear ... is telling us to start, and we're writing to a friend. So what's our tone? That's our first step. What's our tone? Informal, that's right. So when it's ... you just make up a name. Yeah, any name. Now don't change it to hi because they told you to put dear. So just follow the instructions. Friendly, that's right. Friendly, informal. Okay, so that's our tone, is friendly. Now you're going on holiday and you would like a friend to look after your house. What's our purpose? Remember, the purpose is up here. Why are we writing to them? What's our purpose of writing? To do what? To ask for a favor. Exactly. Okay, and then our 3 bullets: explain the situation, what needs to be done, and arrange to meet. So quite a straightforward one. So let's have a look at the tone. So dear Jane, cheers. Okay, so the opening and the closing need to match. Like I wouldn't put yours sincerely, would you? So if you don't like cheers, it's quite Australian. What else do you think you can, how else do you think you can close? What's nice? Informal. You could put bye for now, see you soon, take care, big hugs. All of those are fine. Yeah. Can you best? Yeah, best is a little bit formal for a friend. It's something that we would use in an email at work, probably, right? Best regards is also a bit formal for a friend, especially in a Western context. Thanks in advance is also what you use at work in an email. And I don't know, but for Western people, we don't like thanks in advance because it contains a threat. Like you're telling the person, you're assuming that the person's going to do it. So I wouldn't use that one if I were you. Love is fine. Yep, if you want to put love, or if you don't like love, see you soon, bye for now. All those are good. Yeah, exactly, Natasha. So sometimes if you say thanks in advance, it's like you're threatening the person. They actually haven't agreed to do it yet. So be careful with thanks in advance. Western people don't like it. Okay, anyway, that's going off topic a bit. All right, so let's think about our purpose. Remember, the purpose has to be up the top. Now, in the informal letter, if you say, Dear Jane, I am writing to ask you a favor. Do you think that sounds natural? Would you say that to your friend? No, right? So it's better to start with a kind of a greeting. Dear Jane, how is everything? I hope you're having a great week. Remember, you have to sound like you're talking. As you know, I'm heading off to England next Monday for 3 glorious weeks. I'm wondering if you might be free to do me a huge favor. You see, here's the purpose. But I built up to the purpose, because when you really ask a friend, you don't, not so blunt. Okay, so this also gives you more words. I'd be super grateful if you could look after the house. Okay, so that's the first bullet point. There isn't really much to do, so don't worry. So you can see that it sounds like talking, okay? But trying to get some good vocabulary in there. It'd be fantastic. Give him a bit of a pat. Sounds like very natural vocabulary. Wonderful if you could check my plants and give them a drink if they're looking droopy or parched. Okay, so some interesting vocabulary. Would you be free to meet? So this is arranging when to meet. We could grab a bite. So you can use some idioms. Yeah. Okay, then this last paragraph is pointing to the next step. Could you give me a call to let me know if this won't be too much of a hassle? See, so you get the tone for an informal one. All right, so yeah, so how do you convey hurry without sounding aggressive? Yeah, that's a good question, Mohan. So you can say, you know, I'm something like, I hope it's okay if you let me know, or I really need to know. Yeah, something like it would be, okay, so for Western people, often if you say, it would be great if you could, this is a very nice, we like this phrase. It would be great if you could. So we know that it actually means, please do it, but it's not so blunt. Yeah. Wouldn't it be down to the tone of your vocab? Yeah, so being aggressive or not comes down to the words that you choose. But in English, if you want to sound less direct, we use modal verbs. So things like could, would, might, this is softer. Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about the vocab, we've talked about the answering the question and the structure, but of course we have to think about the spelling and grammar. Remember, that's part of it as well. So we want to think about that in the letter. So let's just have a look at a few just to check your spelling and your grammar. There are a few mistakes here. Can you spot them? Spelling, grammar, can you spot the mistakes? Just type in the chat. Yes, accommodation has 2 M's. It's a hard word to spell. Used to, that's right. There's one more, there. Yeah, there. A place is T-H-E-R-E. Yeah. Now, so how about this next one? Separate investigation was launched by the maintenance staff. Separate, yeah, this is a hard word to spell. Maintenance, that's right. Good, very good. All right, so just some overall advice. Make sure you do what we've been doing. So you look for the purpose, you look for the tone, you check all the bullet points carefully. Look for plurals in the bullet, like problems. Purpose needs to be at the top. A letter usually has 5 paragraphs. Sometimes you can combine the bullet points into like 2 bullet points in 1 paragraph, but remember, equal amount for each bullet. The last paragraph, you point to the future, like I look forward to meeting you or whatever. Make sure you get your tone correct. Try not to copy the words in the topic too much. Try to use different words. Just start like the way they tell you. So if they say, dear sir or madam, just use that. Don't change it. No need for an address. And just make sure the opening and the closing match. Yeah. Okay, so general people. Is there a poll for that, for the general? Just to review. Okay. So just to review what we've been talking about, can you answer these questions? And then you get a little break. You can go and chill for a minute, and you can be very thankful that you're not doing task 1 academic, which is quite a lot harder, I think. So these 3 questions. Oh no, 5. Oh, I've given you so many. Sorry, I forgot. 5 questions. Can you see the poll? Okay, here we go. I'll just let this run a little bit longer, because since there are 5 questions, I was very excited when I created this poll, obviously. Okay, so I'm going to, let's see, let it go a bit longer. All right, I think I'll end the poll and let's have a look. Okay, so which three things do you have to think about? Yes, your purpose, your tone, and that you cover all the bullet points. You don't have to use British spelling. You can use British or American. It's fine. Either are fine. And long sentences, of course, if you can do longer sentences and they're correct, that's fine. But it's more important that you cover all the three bullet points. Yeah, can you use this kind of texting language like lol or like BYB or whatever, BFF? Actually, no. Because it's an English test, you should write in with full words and full sentences. Okay, so don't use that kind of texting language, even in an informal letter. Now, should you, yeah, it doesn't matter if it sounds realistic as long as the words are very impressive. This is false, which most of you said. It has to sound real. That's the secret for the letter. It should sound real, like you would really send it. Yeah, so don't use fancy old-fashioned words that don't sound real. It's okay if you use contractions in an informal letter. Yes, can't. It's very good in an informal letter. And a formal letter, you should use really formal phrases. No, don't do that. Just be professional. Use of course, good word, good vocabulary like drastic downturn. Remember that one? That's very good. Don't use really formal language because it has to sound real. Yeah, we don't write in that very old-fashioned formal way anymore. Okay, so that was a bit of a trick, that one. Great. All right, so general people, you can chill for a little while. Now, academics. Can I share some of the common words that are spelt wrongly? So things like we just looked at: accommodation, what was it? Maintenance, separate. They're often spelt wrongly. What else? This is more grammar, but a lot of people will put staffs with an S. Staff is a collective noun, so staff doesn't have an S. What else do people spell wrongly? Maintenance, often people spell. Can't think of any other ones right now. If I think of them, I'll let you know. Yeah. Furniture also doesn't have an S. That's right. These are countable nouns. Equipments. Oh, dessert and desert. That's a great one, Ferdinand. So yeah, one of them is the place with no water. The one S. Because you think of it that way. There's no water, so there's only one S. That's the desert. The sweet is the dessert with two S. Because it's sweet, so you have two S. Yeah. Okay, so you can also Google. Yes, Google is a very good friend to you. If you just Google IELTS spelling, IELTS tricky spelling or IELTS spelling problems, you'll find lots of resources. You're right. Where, and there, here, bear, all those homonyms. Yeah, your and your, that's right. Very good. Okay, thank you very much for sharing. You guys are awesome. All right, so let's move on. We're going to talk about the academic task one now. So general people, you can rest for a minute. Now, academic task one, what are we doing? It's not a letter. What are we doing? We're writing something else. So it's 150 words. We only want to spend about 20 minutes. We're not writing the essay yet. This is task one. So we're describing something, as people are saying, a chart, a graph, a diagram. Yes. Okay, good. So let's get into this. So you're taking something visual and you're describing it with words. That's what you have to do. So if you were here on Monday, you looked at this one. So we'll review this and we'll look at some other ones as well. Don't worry. Now, remember, you only have 20 minutes. So we need a technique that you can do this well. You don't want to get stuck on your task one for academic. Some people do. So we need a technique where you do it well. We do what the examiner wants, then we move on to task two. Okay, so I'll go through this technique and you can apply this to any task one. So this part here is always the same. Summarize, select and report the main features and compare. This is always your job. Pull out the main information. Work out the main trends, compare. We always have to do this. So what we do when we get this thing is we spend a minute or so understanding what's going on and looking for the main features and the trends. Okay, so let's read. The charts show the number of Japanese tourists traveling abroad between 1985 and 1985 and Australia's share of the Japanese tourist market. Okay, so this one we have two graphs. No problem. Sometimes we just have one. If we have two, we're just going to describe both of them. Don't worry about it. Okay, so now let's analyze them. So I will ask you some questions, which I always ask myself when I'm doing this. So it helps me understand the trends. Okay, so first question, 85 to 1995. So are we talking about past, present, or future? Past, yeah. So this one deals with the past. Yeah, so often they do. Very often they're about the past, but not always. So check. Now we look at these graphs. So Japanese tourists traveling abroad, always look at the vertical, millions. So this is not 246, is it? It's 2 million. So be careful. And here we have the years, 10 years. Now I'll ask you some questions to get the trends. So overall, is it going up or is it going down? Up or down? My first question. Yeah, overall it's going up. Some changes, but overall going up. Now we have to look at certain points. So we always look at the start. The start is maybe about, so approximately is a good word, approximately 5 million Japanese tourists traveling, 1985. We always look at the end. End is how many? About 15 million, right? And we always find the peak, the highest point. So where's the highest point in this graph? Which year is the highest point? Yeah, 95. It's the same as the end, also the peak. Now we have to pick out anything else that's interesting in this graph where the trend changes. So here, up, 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 all the same. We don't need to mention every year. In fact, we should not. We only mention where it changes. So where does it change? Which year? Yeah, here. We want to mention this because it's a change. So we'll mention this. So it drops from like just under 12 to just about 10. Okay, and then it goes up again. So that's what we'll pull out when we describe this graph. Now let's look at this one. Australia's share. How many going to Australia? So here we look again at the vertical. This time it's percent. So be careful. It's not 2 million, 4 million. It's percent. And again, the year. So overall, up or down? Up or down? Basically up, right? So we start very low though in the first year. 2% only. Now at the end, how many percent? Probably just under 6, right? Yeah. Now where's the peak in this graph? Which year is the peak? Yes, it's not at the end. So we're going to want to mention this. This is important. We always have to mention the peak. Now, any other year that's interesting where it changes? Any other interesting year? Yeah, this part, right? So we're going to want to mention this as well. So always spend a couple of minutes picking out the interesting things that you're going to mention. All right, so now we have to start writing. We only have 20 minutes, remember? So when we write, we also have 3 things that we focus on. We do have to do an introduction. We have to pull out the main features, the interesting things, which we already just did. So now we just have to write that up. And we need this thing called an overview, which I'll talk about. All right, so the introduction. So the introduction, we will rewrite the topic in our own words. Okay, changing as many words as we can. Don't copy the topic because that's not your words. Try to change as many words as you can. So the chart and graph, instead of show, we've got compare, number of Japanese tourists. So we've got number of Japanese who spent their holidays overseas instead of traveling abroad. Between and we've got from to. So we just rewrote it, changing as many words as possible. So next we do the overview. So the next sentence should be the overview. What is the overview? Let me read it. Overall, despite relatively small proportion of Japanese tourists coming to Australia, the Japanese tourist market corresponded closely with the growth in Japanese tourism overseas generally, with a trebling of both in the 10-year period. Okay, so this overview is describing the main, what happened overall for both of them, the main trends. Can you see any actual data here? Any actual figures? No, right? There's no actual data. So the overview doesn't have data, just general trends. But this sentence is very important. It must be included. And then we need to describe in detail. So with lots of numbers. So actually the examiner could kind of draw it. They could read what you wrote and then draw it. Yeah, so we need lots of numbers. And okay, so yeah, let's have a look at how it's done here. So first we look at this one. So when you get two like this, the easiest way to do it, to describe in detail, is just describe the first one and then describe the second one. It gets too confusing if you try to describe across. You'll get in a mess. It's easier just describe this one and then describe this one. So let's look at this one. In 1985, only about 5 million Japanese traveled abroad, after which the number increased steadily. By 1990, the figure had more than doubled to 11 million. Apart from a slight drop the following year to approximately 10 million, the upward trend continued until the end of the period, when numbers reached over 15 million. Okay, can you see that we're saying from and to? Very important. You should not just say it increased, it decreased. You have to say from what to what. So the examiner can draw it, and you have to say which year. Now, remember we had a third job. We have to compare things. You must have this comparing language in your description. Can you see the comparing language? There's some comparing in this paragraph. Can you see some? There's some in the first sentence. Can you see the comparing language? Doubled? Yeah, you could say that. After which, this is comparing before and after, right? And apart from, that's right. So these kinds of phrases, after which, apart from, in comparison, in contrast, yeah, these are all very good to use, and you must use it because remember your third job is to compare. Okay, now one last thing I want to point out is the vocab. Increase steadily, slight drop. So we don't just say it increased, it decreased. We say how. It makes it more interesting. Okay, increase steadily, slight drop. Yep. Now we look at the other graph. While Australia was a destination for under 2% of Japanese tourists in 1985, this percentage had risen to over 6% by 1994. The proportion grew consistently apart from a slight fall, remember this bit, in 1990. And then we say what the numbers are. After reaching its peak, 1994 peak, the percentage declined marginally to 6%. See, we mentioned all the important things with lots of numbers. Can you spot the comparing words? There are a few comparing words. This one, while. Yeah, while is one. And then apart from. Yeah. Okay, so it's important to have all that. Great. So if we just look at the whole thing, just to review. So we have the introduction, we paraphrase, chart and graph compare the number of Japanese. Then we have the overview. Overall, despite relatively small proportion. So we just describe everything in like 1 or 2 sentences, no numbers. Then we describe the first one with lots of numbers and comparing. And then the second one, lots of numbers and comparing. That's how you do it. Yeah, so we use this same method no matter what we're given. Because sometimes it's not a graph, is it? Sometimes it's this, a table. Can you put the overview in the first paragraph? Yeah, that's what I just did then. But you need your introduction and then your overview together. You once had 5 graphs in task 1. I think that's unusual. I don't think I've ever really seen that, but you would just have to Really? 5 graphs in task 1 in a real IELTS test? Okay. Well, you just have to use the same technique. You would just pull out the main features and compare for each one. But if there were really 5, you would probably have to compare between the graphs, I would say. Yeah, but I don't think I've ever seen that. Yeah. Do you want to mention the stagnation between the years? Oh yeah, Ian, that's a good point. There was one. Let me just go back. You could mention that. Yep, if you wanted to. But I think it does go up a tiny bit. I think it does increase a tiny bit. But yes, if you wanted to mention this, you could. It plateaued. There was a plateau. Yep, definitely you could. What does marginally mean? Marginally means just a tiny bit, not a lot. It's a very nice word to use. It was a real test, 5 regions with different features. Okay, then you'd have to compare across the different ones because it probably wouldn't be a lot of data on each graph, right? So then you would have to compare. You would have to talk about them all and compare. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's move on and talk about this one, this chart. So sometimes it's not a graph. So don't panic. We use the same technique. So remember, this part is always the same. Summarize, pull out the main features and compare. So here, this one, let's read the topic. The table shows percentage of students who attended different types of secondary schools. Oops. Between 2000 and 2009. Okay, so once again, is it in the past? Yes, usually it is. Okay, but always check. All right, so now we need to spend a bit of time understanding what's going on. Now we're looking for patterns. We're looking for which ones are the same. Can you have 4 paragraphs for task 1? Yeah, you can, but I used to always say that, but I've become aware, and actually I didn't realize this, but I think they've got stricter. You shouldn't have 1 sentence in a paragraph. Yeah, so in the past, it didn't really matter, but I think they've become a bit stricter about this. So try not to have 1 sentence in a paragraph. Yeah, so if your overview is just 1 sentence, then join it with your introduction will be better. Okay, so coming back to this, we have to look for the ones that are the same and the ones that are different. So let's try and understand what's going on. So we've got specialist schools. We've got 3 years, 2000, 2005, 2009. So specialist schools, what happened? Up or down? Remember the questions we ask ourselves, up or down? Yeah, just a tiny bit, Ro. This would be marginally decreased. Yep. Grammar schools, what happened? 12, 19, 24. Yeah. It dropped by how much? 12 to 24. It actually dropped by half, right? It dropped by half. So it's good if you can try, of course you can say it dropped from 24% to 12%. That's fine. But it's good if you use different language. It dropped by half, didn't it? Volunteer schools, what happened? 52 to 20. That's a huge drop. More than half, isn't it? Yeah? Yes, drastically, indeed, drastically. Community schools, we went from 12. Oh, so this is different. It also increased almost 5 times, right? 12 5s are 60, aren't they? Yeah? It jumped hugely. Great. So which 3 are the same? So they've always created, so some are the same and some are the different. So which 3 are we going to talk about together? These 3, right? Yeah. And then this one we'll talk about separately. So you always need to work out how you're going to group your information. So let's have a look again at the model. So, all right, the table illustrates the percentage of school children attending 4 different types of secondary school. So we rewrote the topic, overview. In general, we can see that specialist grammar and voluntary control students experience declines, Whereas there's a comparing word. Community school became the largest provider, yeah, in the same period. Okay, so everything, no numbers. Remember, no numbers in the overview. Now we describe in detail. To begin, proportion in voluntary control fell from just over half to only 20%. Yeah, remember? Just over half, 52 to 20%. Similarly, there's a comparing word. The relative number of children in grammar schools, just under 1/4. See, we're not saying 24%. You're trying to say it in a more interesting way. That's good. Dropped by half in the same period, 24 to 12. As for the special schools, a relatively small percentage of pupils attending this type of school, which was 12%, also fell, although not significantly. Okay, then remember we have to talk about the other one. So comparing language, however, while the other 3 types of schools declined, the opposite was true in the case of community schools. In fact, while only a small minority of 12% were educated, in 2000, this figure increased to well over half in the following 9 years. Okay, so you're starting to see the pattern of how we do it. So don't panic if it's not a graph. Now, sometimes we get this. It's a process. Okay, now also don't panic with a process. Can you say that community schools increase more than 1/3? Yeah, you could do, but remember to say that what it started with, because otherwise it doesn't mean anything. Like it started with this percent and then increased by more than 1/3. Then we know how much. Yeah. So that remember that the examiner should be able to draw it or should be able to know exactly what the numbers are. But yes, if you use different words to describe the numbers, it's good. Now, process. Now, people always panic about the process, but actually process is quite easy. You're just going to describe everything that happened in words. A process always moves along. It's a sequence. Okay, so, question. If it's a table and there are different schools, can you explain and describe in one paragraph? Yeah, but usually when you have something like a table, they design it so that there are some that are the same and there are some that are different. So it would be good to organize your paragraphs so that the ones are the same you talk about together and the ones that are different you talk about together. Or sometimes there are 3 different types. So you've got to spend a minute working out how you're going to organize the information. So to get a good mark for task 1 academic, you should not have 1 paragraph. You need usually to have 3, sometimes 4. All right, so let's see what we do when we get a process. First of all, don't panic. Read what we're supposed to do. The diagram shows the process by which bricks are manufactured in the building industry. Okay, so our introduction, we're just going to rewrite the topic, change all the words. But we need to spend a moment working out what's going on, understanding. And you need to mention everything on the process, but try not to copy. It's good to change the form of the word. I'll show you what I mean. So brick manufacturing, digger, clay. So it's digging up the clay, then goes through metal grid, this clay, and then it gets finer, right? Goes onto a roller, sand and water are added. Then two different things can happen. Wire cutter cuts it into bricks, or it goes into a mold and makes the bricks. Okay, 2 options. In academic tests, all type of 1 will be tested. Yeah, in your academic task 1, you could get any of these. It's random. It will only be 1, and you'll just get 1, but it could be any of these different types. That's why it takes a while to learn how to do them. Okay, so after the bricks are cut, they go into this oven, 24 to 48 hours. We could put that, but we could say it in a different way, couldn't we? 1 to 2 days, right? Then they go into this kiln, moderate, high, cooling chamber, 2 to 3 days. Then they are packaged. So see if you can change the word. So instead of packaging, you can say they are packaged. We often use a lot of this passive in the academic. And then they are delivered. Okay, that sounds better. All right, so we need to mention everything. Now, how do we do the overview? People always ask that. The easy way is you just count how many steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. So you say, overall, there are approximately 7 steps in brick manufacturing, beginning with what? Digging up the clay and culminating or finishing with delivering the bricks. Yeah. You can also say, you know, it's a simple process or it's quite a complicated process with quite a number of steps in this case. How to use fraction vocab in task. I'm sorry, Jonah, I don't really know what you mean by that. Maybe you could give me an example. Should you use all the words in the diagram? Yeah, you need to use the words in the diagram, but as I mentioned, it's good to change the form. So instead of delivery, you say are delivered. Because if you just copy the words, they're not your words. So let's look at the model. So in the diagram outlines how bricks are manufactured from extraction of raw clay to delivery of finished bricks. Process involves clearly defined steps. Okay, so that's the introduction. This one put the overview at the end, which is also okay. You can do that if you prefer. Overall, the brick making process comprises 7 steps. These steps involve different processes, namely refining and forming clay, drying the clay, and firing. Okay, so that's a nice overview. Words like half, a quarter, third. Oh, okay. Or transported. Yeah, you can say transported, that's right. Or you think the process is harder than the graph. That's so interesting. I think the process is easier. So then we just describe all the steps. So first the clay is extracted by a large digger, then refined by separating larger pieces from smaller ones using a metal grid. So we're just describing each thing. The refined clay is conveyed via a belt on rollers to be mixed with sand and water. The resulting mixture is molded into bricks, either through extrusion and cutting or using a brick mold. So see, this is molded, is extracted. This is called passive. We use a lot of this in the process. Okay, these fresh bricks are dried. So we see we're just describing every step. Yeah, so that's how you do the process. Confused about the tense when you do the process. Okay, so in the process, usually it's just present tense, because we're describing facts. See, is extracted, is refined, is molded. Now it's not usually in past tense, it's usually present. Okay, so that's the process. Now just some overall tips for the academic task 1. So you must try to reach 150 words. Okay, so you need to describe everything. Can it be in future? It will be, no, not really, because you're describing something that already exists. It's not what's going to happen in the future. Oh, are you saying something like, oh, the bricks will be delivered? I guess you could do that. That would be all right. Like it will be transferred. Oh, yeah, that would work. Yep. Do you have a sample, the sample of, oh, I think this, I'm not sure if the sample is there in your notes. I'm not sure, but there are lots of samples online. So don't worry about that. Okay, you must have the overview. Okay, whether you put it as part of the introduction or at the end, it doesn't matter. But you've got to have the overview, no numbers. Do what we did and pull out the important numbers so that they can, like the examiner could actually draw it from your description. Now you need lots of data. Remember to compare while, whereas, in contrast, in comparison, like that. And those usually are the linking words that we use. Usually this task 1 academic, maybe it can have 3 paragraphs or 4 paragraphs. Checking for mistakes, I'll talk more about that later. Now, remember that you've got to have lots of data when you describe. You can't just say, oh, it increased, it decreased. That's not enough. You need to say from what to what. Never interpret. Okay, so you should not say, you know, I think community schools are really popular because everybody's becoming a hippie nowadays. No, don't do that. Just describe what you see. Don't interpret. And you don't have to describe every single thing, just the main trends. And we must have that overview. Okay, so that's academic task 1, which I agree takes a while to get familiar with. Look at a lot of models that will help you to understand how to do it. Yeah, we can't do an example of a map now. What I suggest is that you have a look online at maps. But okay, the secret with a map is that they don't come up very often. That's one thing. They don't come up very often in the test. But if you get a map, it's usually before and after. So you find the things that have changed. And then, so talk about the things that are still the same, and then compare the things that have changed. So like, are there more roads? Are there more houses? If the map has north, south, east, west on it, then use that. They want you to say in the north, in the south. Sometimes it does not have north, south, east, west. So then you just have to say on the left, on the right. Yeah, okay. But map is quite rare, so don't worry about map too much. Okay, now a process is more common, and process seems to be coming up more these days in the tests. So shall we have our poll for the academic task 1? See what you remember. Is that there, the poll? You got a map. Yeah, sometimes a map comes up, but it's not so frequent. Okay. So what should you not include in the academic? And do you have to cover every piece of information? And should you have a conclusion? Okay, I'll just let this run for a little minute. Is progressing still come up in official tests? I'm not sure. Is process, you mean? Is that the process is very common. It seems to be coming up more, I feel. Process seems to be becoming more popular. Okay, so all right, I'll just let it run a little bit longer just because we're running out of time. Okay, so let's have a look. Which one should you not include? Yes, do not interpret. Don't say why it's happening. Just describe what you see. Do you have to cover every piece of data? Yes, no. You don't have to cover everything, just the trends and where it changes. Do you need a conclusion? You don't need a conclusion in task 1, academic. Only if you need more words, you can create a conclusion, like sort of summarize everything, but you don't have to have a conclusion. Okay, great. Now we need to move on and talk about task 2 because it's worth 66%. Now, can you tell me what task 2 is? What are you doing? What are you doing for task 2? So we're going to talk about it together. Even though the topics are a bit different, the method is the same. Yes, so we're writing an essay. So who has written an essay in the last year? Can you say yes or no if you've written an essay? Yes? No? Some have, some haven't. Okay, quite a few people have, but some have not. So don't worry. This is a very specific essay and it's very short. I mean, it doesn't feel short when you're doing it, but it's only 250 words. Okay, so let's review quickly what the examiner's looking at. So did you answer the question? Did you stay on the topic? Very important for the essay. Did you have a good structure? Paragraphs, linking words, the vocab. So in the essay, we want more formal vocabulary, like when you write an essay for university or school, that kind of vocabulary. And your grammar, again, okay, is important. All right. So when we get our essay topic, it's usually divided into 2 parts. We'll have a look at a lot of them. So there's the topic, and then there are your instructions. So let's have a look. So here we've got international tourism has brought enormous benefits to many places. At the same time, there is concern about its impact on local inhabitants and the environment. Do the advantages of international tourism outweigh the advantages? Okay, so can you see that there's 2 parts? There's the topic. We're talking about international tourism and its impact. And then there are your instructions or questions. This is what you have to do. You have to think whether the disadvantages outweigh the advantages. Okay, so the topics are always like this. Let's look at another one. in many countries, very few young people follow the news. So this is the topic that we're talking about, young people following the news. What do you think are the causes of this? What can you suggest to encourage more young people to follow the news? Okay, so here we have the instructions or the questions. How many things do we have to do in this essay, if you got this essay? 2, that's right. So what do you think are the causes and what suggestions? So these topics that we're looking at, in every test, the topic will change, but the type of question, the type of instructions might be similar. There are different types of essay, which we'll look at, okay? All right, so but this one you have to do 2 things. That's right. Okay. We just want you to get into the habit of looking at the topic and the instructions. Very important. Now, every essay has this bit. Give reasons and include relevant examples from your knowledge or experience. Okay, this is what you have to do every single essay. Give reasons and examples. Reasons and examples. Okay, so we're always thinking about this, no matter what your topic is. And of course, you have to hit your 250 words. All right, so let's think about the 4 things. So let's think about task response. So we've already started doing this, analyzing the question. We need to do this, understand what we have to do so we stay on the topic. A lot of people lose marks because they don't stay on the topic. Now, remember this one, we just looked at it. In many countries, very few young people follow the news. What do you think are the causes? What can you suggest to encourage more people to follow the news? So you just told me that you have to do 2 things. Now have a look at this. It's too simplistic, I know, and the language and the tone are not correct, but there's a bigger problem. Tell me what the problem is with this. It's not true that people don't read newspapers or watch the news on TV. In my country, most people spend time finding out about the news. Why do I say so? Because I see newspapers everywhere. If people don't buy newspapers, why does its publication continue? Yes, so someone here is saying wrong response, and that is correct. Yeah, I mean, the language is a bit too simplistic and informal as well. But the main problem here, what were our 2 things that we had to do? The causes and what we can suggest. Did it ask us if we agree? Did it say, do you agree with this? No. So this is not on the topic. Okay, if you wrote this, you will lose marks because you're not answering the questions. You're not following the instructions. You're giving your opinion. It didn't ask you for your opinion. So please just follow the instructions. Please, please, please. Okay? Very important. Someone was asking about, can you write more or going beyond the word limit? Of course, that's a minimum. 250 is a minimum. If you can write 300, 350 within the time, then that's fine, totally fine. Okay, so but I really want to emphasize, please just answer the questions. Stay on the topic. Now, I really love this slide. I took it from a video, actually. I really like it because it has some of the main question types, the instructions or the questions that come up a lot. And then it gives you an idea about how to structure. Conditional sentences. Okay, let me answer that a bit later when we talk about grammar, Franz. If I haven't answered it, ask me again. Okay, so these are some of the common question types. And here is a good way that you could structure it, the paragraphs, so that you're answering the question. So let's have a look. This is one common type. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So this is asking your opinion. So this is a good structure. You give your introduction, why you agree, another reason why you agree or disagree, then consider the other side, conclusion. This is another type. Discuss both views and give your own opinion. Introduction, one view, the other view, your opinion, conclusion. Your structure is very important in the IELTS essay. It needs to be really clear. And this will give you a good, clear structure. Why is it so? Give reasons. This is a bit like the one we just did, isn't it? The one about the news. Why don't young people watch the news? What are your suggestions? So introduction, reasons, solutions, conclusion. Oh, here's the one we just looked at. Disadvantages outweigh the advantages. So we have the introduction, the advantages, the disadvantages, conclusion. Okay, so maybe you would like to take a slide, a screenshot or a photo of this slide because I think it's very helpful. It is also on the IDP website, actually. There's a video that goes through this. Can it be full screen? Oh, is it not full screen? Sorry. I didn't realize it wasn't full screen. Is that better? Okay. Yeah, so I'll just give you a minute to take a screenshot or photo. All right, so let's move on. Are you allowed to start the essay first? Yes, you can do the writing test in either order. Essay, task 2, task 1, task 1, task 2. Just be careful. If you do task 2 first, manage your time because you still need 20 minutes to do your task 1. A lot of people do the essay, then they run out of time, and then their task 1 is very bad. And you need to answer both task 1 and task 2. Do you need to rewrite the topic? Okay, we're going to talk about what we do in each part soon, coming. So let's look at a few of the different types, okay? So this is a very common type we just saw. Discuss both views and give your own opinion. So remember, this is the topic and this is the instructions. So some people think that wild animals should not be kept in zoos. Others believe that there are good reasons for having zoos. Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. How many things do we have to do in this essay type? How many things? Yeah, so this is where we have a discussion and opinion. You're right. Yeah, we discuss it. Yeah, it seems like 2, but it's actually 3. Both these views. So we discuss and we give our opinion. So view 1 is always with some. Some people think that wild animals should not be in zoos. No zoos for wild animals. Then view 2 is always others. So others think that, you know, it can be good to have zoos. So that's view 2. Then our third job is, what do we think? What do I actually think? Maybe I think a bit of both, like a mixture. Or maybe I also really think that zoos are terrible. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so this is a very common type of essay for academic and for general. All right, so structure. How do we structure this essay? We do the introduction. We'll talk about the introduction in a bit, so don't worry. You can actually give your opinion in the introduction, but don't give any reasons, no reasons. Then you talk about view 1. Remember, we always have to give reasons and examples. View 2, reasons and examples. Say your opinion with reasons, why, and then the conclusion. Would you need to make an entire essay for opinion? No, a paragraph. You need to have a paragraph for your opinion because you need to give reasons for your opinion. However, if you have enough words, your opinion can be the conclusion. That's fine. Okay, so here's an example. This essay is not perfect, okay? This essay is not a band 9, it's a band 7. But a lot of you said you need 7. So it's good to see what a 7 looks like. And we're going to keep looking at this essay. But part of the reason why it's a 7, and 7 means good, is that the structure is very clear. We have the introduction. We have many good reasons for having zoos. So they talked about view 2 first, but they're talking about the view 2. Many good reasons for zoos. And they give the reasons here with examples, for example. Then they talk about the other view. Many people feel wild animals should be free. And they give their reasons and examples, their person's opinion, and conclusion. So very nice, clear structure. In IELTS writing, you have to think of reasons. So they are argumentative essays. They're not explained. You have to think of reasons. So it's not always your opinion, but you have to give reasons. So it is kind of argumentative in that way. Okay, so the next thing we have to think about, so we've analyzed the question. Okay, we work out that we stay on the topic. We think about the structure. Then we need to use linkers to make it flow. So here, this essay is band 7. So it has some nice linkers. At present and them. Why them? Because instead of saying wild creatures and repeating it, again, wild creatures, that's a bit boring. So instead, we just put them instead. It's called a reference. So most importantly, unless, for example, therefore, however. So both views put forward valid points. So you can see in conclusion, although, So you can see that we are, these linkers will guide the reader through nicely. So the linkers are good. So Brian, if you want, the most important thing, Brian, however you structure the essay is up to you, but it needs to be really clear that this is your opinion, because this type of essay, you have to talk about view 1, view 2, and your opinion. How you do that is up to you, but it must be clear that you've done those 3 tasks. Okay, so why is this not a higher score? We'll get into that in a minute. There are some mistakes. Yeah, and the vocab is not so complex to warrant a higher band. I'll show you a higher one and you'll see the difference, okay? I mean, 7 is good, okay? 7 is a good score. But there are grammar and spelling mistakes in there, which we'll look at later. What is the lowest score that people can, for IELTS, people can score 1. If you turn up to the test, but you don't do anything, you'll get 1. We always just think about the 4 things, okay? So it really depends how people do on that. So people can have a score from 2 to 9. It really depends. Okay, so let's look at another one. Some people say that living in a house is much better than living in an apartment. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? So this is a different type of essay, isn't it? This is asking for our opinion, what we think. So often this one comes up. It's very common as well. Now, with this type of essay, you have to work out your position. Yeah, so some people say it's house is better than apartment. So what do you think? First thing to decide is what you think. So I'm going to ask you, do you think living in the house is better than living in an apartment? You let me know in the chat. Is it better? House, yes, no. So some people say no, some people say yes. So it doesn't matter as long as you can think of reasons and examples. Yeah. House is better than apartment, yeah? Can you choose both? Yes, if you want to sit on the fence and say, you know, I like both, yeah, that's okay, as long as you can think of reasons and examples. Remember, that's always your job. Okay, good. So, yeah, so our structure for this type of essay, the agree or disagree, we will do our introduction. I'll talk about the introduction soon. But you need, in this type of essay, with what extent do you agree or disagree, you need to put your position. So you need to say, I agree. I mostly agree. If it's extent, I mostly agree. I partially agree. I mostly disagree. You need to put that in your introduction. Then you will argue, you'll think of reasons and examples. Then I think it's good to at least think about the other side and then your conclusion. Okay, so the next thing, we need to brainstorm. We need to think about why. We need to think of our reasons and examples. So quite a few of you said house is better. Why? Can you quickly brainstorm? You have to train yourself to think of your reasons why. Yes, you can give your own experience because your examples can be from your own experience. Flexibility, I don't know what that means. A house is more flexible, better fit. A garden, private, more space. Yeah, all these are very good reasons. So some of you said house was better. Apartment was better. Why is apartment better? Independence for a house. Pool. So maybe apartment has facilities. Yep. Cheaper. Yep. Yeah, more convenient, maybe amenities. Exactly. Great. So please brainstorm like this. Now, some of you were asking about what an 8, 8.5 looks like. So this is, you'll see this is how this is different to the 7. So this person, let's see what their position is. Remember that I agree that living in an apartment is more advantageous than living in a house for several reasons. So they're arguing the other side. Now, see their introduction. Everyone wants to live in comfort. Some people find independent houses more convenient, while others prefer modern day apartments. So can you see that they've kind of just rewritten the topic, but then put a general statement? Yeah. And then here's the position. I agree. So they put their position in the introduction. Now, the next paragraph, they have to give their reasons why. To start with, a nice linker, we are moving towards a culture of nuclear families, where most adults work. Life is more stressful. Given these circumstances, much easier to manage an apartment. So it's easier to manage is the first reason. For instance, remember example, you have to give examples. Most apartments have housekeeping facilities, which we would have to manage ourselves. Can you see that the example, it just supports your point? With your example, do not tell a long story about your life because it's only a short essay. Your example just needs to support your reason. So the reason is it's easier to manage. So the example is that it has housekeeping facilities that makes it easier to manage. Okay. Next, so this person said they think apartments better, right? So additionally, apartments are usually gated communities, so they are a lot more secure. To exemplify, here's an example. Most apartments have an access card for residents and stickers. Any visitors have to go through security. So we're giving example. Third reason, furthermore, apartments have common facilities. Yeah. So sometimes you don't have to give an example. Sometimes you can just expand on your reason, and that's like an example. And however, then considering the other side, living in an independent house does have its own advantages. It's more spacious, can modify the space. To conclude, they have their own pros and cons, and they just restated their position. I believe apartments satisfy the needs. Okay. You do not have to consider the other side. If you just want to argue that you totally agree, it's okay. But I think it makes a stronger essay because at least have one reason on the other side, because it shows you can argue both sides and you have more ideas. That's just my opinion. Is it okay to use we? I wouldn't use we because this is your opinion, not we. Like you don't have a whole group. It's not like you went out and polled a whole group, right? So I would use I. I is fine. Or you can use passive like or people. You know, you can use, but I wouldn't use we. Sounds a bit strange. Is it okay to use a personal tone? Yeah, your examples can be personal. Yep, they can be, but your tone must be a bit more formal. Like you can't write in a really casual way. Okay, some people are taking their test on computer. You don't need to bring anything. Everything is provided. You can only bring water bottle and something to keep you warm, maybe if it's cold. Of course, you have to bring your ID, yeah, but you can't take anything else into the test. Oh, this essay agrees. You could say that if you want to. If you want to write it like impersonal like that, yeah, that's okay. All right, so let's look at one more. I just want to check the time. Okay. Every year, thousands of students go overseas to study. Although many benefit, others go home disappointed. What are the benefits and drawbacks of studying in another country? So how many things do we have to do in this essay? So always, so this is the topic. These are the instructions. Yes, this is quite a straightforward one. This is more like a general topic. Yeah, so benefits and drawbacks. So just make sure you understand what you have to do. Every year, thousands of students go overseas. Many benefit, others go home disappointed. Okay, we have to talk about the benefits and drawbacks of studying. So here's the structure. So we'll have our introduction. We'll talk about the benefits, reasons and examples for the benefits, the drawbacks, reasons and examples, and a conclusion. This is a nice, clear structure. Yes, in this one, we should not give our opinion. That is right. Did they ask you, what's your opinion? Is studying overseas good? No. So just follow the instructions here. Just follow. Okay. All right, we're going to talk about the introduction just now. You guys are very eager. Okay, but before we start writing, you should brainstorm. I encourage you to do this. You will have scrap paper. So do this before you start writing, because if you have nice, clear reasons, it will make your essay much better. Some people just start writing and they just keep repeating the same reason, and it's not very good. So let's brainstorm together. What are the benefits of studying? Can you give me some benefits of studying in another country? For the example, you can give your own experience. Yes, totally. But don't tell a long story. Just give a short example to support your reason. Okay, educational benefit, learn from other cultures, new languages, new environment. Yep, all these are good. More friends, yeah, networking, independence, all of these are fantastic. Very good. Now, what about the drawbacks? What about the drawback? Expensive, homesickness, definitely, culture shock, yes. Okay, so I've got very similar ones to you. But try to always think of three. So benefits, exposure to other cultures, independence, networking, drawbacks, culture shock, discrimination. And I thought of distractions. Sometimes when people go overseas, parents are not around, they get distracted. Discrimination, that could be another one, yes. All right, so we've done our brainstorm. That's very good. So now we have to start writing. So we have our introduction. Yeah, so we introduce the topic, then the body, we will have a topic sentence, reason, and example. And conclusion, the fastest way is just to summarize your points. You can also sort of suggest what might happen in the future. It's good to have at least two benefits, two drawbacks, but probably three would make it an even better essay because it shows you have more ideas. Okay, so introduction. Yeah. So this is just a little digression, but remember this one about very few people follow the news? What's wrong with this introduction? So here's our topic, and here's the introduction. What's the problem with this? Yes, it copies the topic. Okay, so don't do that. Do not just copy the topic. You must, if you want to, one thing you can do is paraphrase, but you must change the words. You can't just copy the topic because they're not your words. The examiner will not count them. Yeah, so someone's asking in computer, you are given some rough paper, yes, you can make notes. All right, so how do we do it then? If we shouldn't copy the topic, you can paraphrase. Okay, so when you do this, you really just change the words. So every year, annually, thousands of students, a vast number of students, go overseas, venture abroad, to study, to pursue their studies. Although, while many find their time overseas to be greatly beneficial, others end up unsatisfied. So it's really literally rewriting the topic. That's one way, okay? Another way is that you can say a general statement about overseas study. These days, it often seems that almost every second-year graduate attain their qualification abroad. Many of these students find the study experience rewarding, but some are less satisfied. Okay, so two ways to do the introduction. Just remember, you don't have a lot of time, so you want to do the introduction quickly. Now, when we get to the next paragraph, each paragraph should have a topic sentence, reason, and example. So remember our first reason? Our first thing we're going to talk about are the benefits, right? So studying abroad offers benefits. That's what this paragraph is about. First, so here's our first reason with a linker. Firstly, it facilitates exposure to new and diverse cultures. Yeah, remember that was our first reason? So then we expand. So sometimes you can give an example, but sometimes you can just say more. Students can not only immerse themselves in the lifestyles and tradition of their host country, but may also have the opportunity to discover worldviews and cultural practices of fellow students across the globe. In addition, so here's my next reason. Being alone in an unfamiliar place and having to solve issues of day-to-day living can foster a strong sense of resilience and independence. Now, here's an example. Negotiating rent, transport, and food will teach a young person valuable life skills. So can you see that this example is not a long story? It's just supporting your reason. Yeah, so you wouldn't say, when I was studying overseas, I went down to the local supermarket and I had a long shopping list and then I bought blah, blah, blah. Don't do that because it's going off topic. Yeah. All right. So then we need to remember our next job, the drawbacks. So we have a topic sentence. Conversely, there are several drawbacks. One of these could be confronting a sense of culture shock. And here's an example. If a young person has grown up in a conservative or rural environment, studying in a cosmopolitan city may be jarring. Further, so here's another reason, dynamic environment has distractions. And then we expand on the reason. Okay. And then the conclusion, you can just summarize all the points. That's the quickest way to do it. Just summarize all the points that you said, or like restate them. Sometimes you can point to the future if you want to. Like in the future, I feel there'll be even more people studying overseas. That's fine. You can do that as well. So in conclusion, opting to complete tertiary studies abroad can offer increased exposure to opportunities to develop. However, it cannot be denied that overseas studies can also lead to culture shock and distractions. Each person needs to consider their own temperament and circumstances before making this life-changing choice. Is it important to spell naive like that? No, not really. I mean, that's just really the correct one, but you don't have to put two. That's okay. You won't lose marks for that. But that's what we're going to talk about very quickly is remember that we spent a lot of time talking about analyzing the question, task response, cohesion and coherence, the paragraph and the structure. Because a lot of people lose marks there and you don't need to lose marks there. But now we'll talk about vocab and grammar. These ones take a bit longer to work on. And remember that vocab is also your spelling. Yeah, we don't want to have informal because the essay is more formal. Okay, so here's just some mistakes with word formation. What are the mistakes? Cope up with, what should it be? Yeah, I just had 2 benefits and 2 drawbacks because I wrote a lot. But it actually would be good to have 3 benefits and 3 drawbacks. That would also maybe even be better, be stronger. Yeah, that's a good point. Cope with, that's right. Dude is too informal for the IELTS essay. You know, person, man, whatever. Result to should be. We don't put result with to. Result in, that's right. Supposed to be, yep. And taken care of. Taken is okay, depending on the sentence. He's taken care of. Make sure she is taken care of. Okay, so be careful with the word form. Yeah. Okay, so here is in that, remember that band 7 one we looked at? There are some nice collocations. What is that? The examiner likes this. These are words that go together nicely. So tourist attraction, that sounds nice together in English. Alternative ways, rare species, educational importance, natural habitat. These all words always sound nice together. And also this essay is band 7 because there are a few more unusual words like underestimate, cruel, precious, attract. They're not just such common words. They're a bit more unusual. Okay. I mean, here cruel is repeated. So that's, not so fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, there are spelling mistakes in this essay, which is why it doesn't get higher than a 7. Okay, so now let's think. Grammar is another thing that you need to work on. So what I suggest, I mean, maybe you have very good grammar, but if not, write a practice essay, show it to someone who has really good grammar, and get them to pick out your mistakes. So you will learn your habits, okay? We will look at some common grammar mistakes now. If you do those common things, then you'll know in the test, you should spend maybe 2 or 3 minutes at the end checking, and then you'll know what to look for, your common mistakes. So we'll look at some common mistakes. Remember that with the grammar, we want a complex sentence. So global warming is a phenomenon. It is caused by increased carbon emissions. So this is 2 sentences. They're both correct. But can you see, do you think Grammarly app will help pick up those mistakes? Oh yeah, you could use the Grammarly app. That's a great idea. But just remember, in the real test, there's no grammar check. There's no spell check. But Grammarly to check your essay, yeah, that would be good. Okay, so now if we combine it, global warming is a phenomenon which is caused by increased carbon emissions. Can you see it's 1 sentence? Then it's a more complex sentence with 2 parts. This is better for your IELTS grammar. Now, mistakes in grammar, this is where we need to train ourselves. So this essay that got 7 has grammar mistakes. It also has some spelling mistakes. So can you have a look through and see if you can spot any? So when you do that, you can write in the chat, but please put which paragraph. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and write the mistake, because otherwise I won't be able to find it. Yeah, all over the world. Can you say which paragraph it's in? Paragraph 1, all over the world. Where is that? All over world, yes. So they're missing the. This is a common mistake, forgetting your article. Paragraph 1, believe. So is that spelling mistakes? Yeah. Yeah, spelling. So there are some spelling mistakes. There are too many spelling mistakes, which is why it got 7 and not a higher. Even though there were those really good bits of vocabulary, too many spelling mistakes. Paragraph 1, wrong compound sentence. I believe that wild animals should not be kept in zoos and there should be different. At present, zoos are a tourist attraction and need wild animals to attract. This seems okay to me. First paragraph should be visitors. Yeah, so this is again is spelling, not grammar. They make money for the city, Yeah, so they forgot the article there. That's right. Good, you're very good at spotting. If they're wrong in terms of comma, okay, so punctuation does count. If you have just 1 comma wrong, then it's not really going to make any difference. But if you have a lot of punctuation errors, yes, it will affect your score under the grammar. Okay, good. So you're spotting they is not. Yes, they is not. Here, this is a common mistake. Subject verb agreement. So great, very good. So let's have a look at some of these that you've already spotted. So common mistake are articles. For the city, get a chance, the Chinese panda. Yeah, so this is common error. When you're talking about a specific thing, you need to use the. And is like one of many. So the and that's important. Yes, their natural habitat. Wild animals at their country. Prepositions. Often people make mistakes. Should be in. Yes, so this one, we frequently see news stories. More than one, right? So plurals. Plurals is another mistake. So subject verb agreement, we just pointed this one out because it's how many people? Plural, they are. Yeah. So these are common things. Articles, are and the, plurals, prepositions, and subject verb agreement. Yeah, so these are good things to look out for. So just some overall reminders. If you're doing paper-based, you can write all over the question paper and you can make notes on the question paper. But then you write on your separate answer sheet. If you run out of space, ask for another piece of paper. You don't have to squish it up. Now, computer delivered, it will automatically save. You don't have to save. And computer delivered, there's cut and paste and delete. But be careful about cut and paste because you don't want to keep using the same words. You want a range of words. You don't have time to write a rough draft. Just do the brainstorm like we were talking about. Don't copy the topic, change the words. Okay, so don't, try to give like specific reasons, and your examples should not be like a big long story. Okay, they just support your reason. And please do what we've been doing. Analyze, like how many things do I have to do? Think about the structure, brainstorm. So your essay will probably have 4 or 5 paragraphs. Very nice, clear paragraph, topic, sentence, reason, example. Yeah, so just a good checklist here. Make sure you analyze the question. If you have to talk about 2 things, like benefits and drawbacks, make sure you do that. Nice, clear paragraphs, linking words. Check your spelling and grammar at the end. So trying to use a bit complex sentences. And as we mentioned, commas, full stops. You can write the whole thing in capital letters if you want to. You can do that, no problem. Okay, so just sum up. So remember, task 2 is worth 66%. We want to do task 1 quickly, do what the examiner wants, and move on to the essay. Essay is more important. Please analyze, work out what you have to do, and stay on the topic. Nice, clear paragraphs. Use your linking words. Good vocab and grammar. Yeah. And yes, if you run out of time, do not write in points or bullets. You will lose marks. You must write in full sentences. Okay, so this slide here, when you register to do your IELTS with IDP, you get access to this IELTS Essentials, lots of materials to help you prepare. So there's Facebook page, there are practice tests, there are tips by experts in the blog, videos to support you. Also, if you go to the IDP website, that also can help you. There are lots of resources there on the IDP website. Okay, so yay, we've covered everything. Thank you so much for all your great questions and input. But I'm here to keep, we've still got some time, so I can answer any questions, other questions that you have. I'm also going to look back and see that I missed. Yeah, I can answer a question on reading if you have a question on reading. No worries. Highlighter is not allowed. Let's see. If you have bad handwriting, will it decrease your score? No. As long as your writing is legible, as long as it's possible to read it, it doesn't matter if it's messy. Yeah. Computer-based tests, you will be given some rough paper and pencil, so you can take some notes in the computer-based test. Yeah, so, okay, you get confused with what's my tip on reading? Reading test, you have to be fast and accurate. So you really do need to practice. I think you need to read the passage. A lot of people don't do that. So spend about 5 minutes reading it, but read it fast and work out what each paragraph is roughly about. Then with the reading test, you find the answer in the passage. So you have to scan, and then you have to check very carefully. Reading test, you have to be accurate and you can't be sloppy. Okay, so I'm not sure what the question about reading is. Where is it? I saw it just a minute ago. I think it's true, false, not given. Okay. So false means that I'm going to stop the share for now. False means that you cannot find the answer. False means that the answer is there. So, but it's not the same as the question. It's like opposite. So it might say like, I don't know, Australia has many native animals. Okay, that's the question. And then in the passage, it says Australia does not have many native animals. That's a very simple example, but it's not the same meaning. So that's false. Not given is you cannot find it at all. Okay, so you can't find it there. Yeah, so that's the difference. It is a bit tricky. Sometimes it is confusing between false and not given. With the reading test, to get a 7, if you're doing general, you have to get 34 out of 40. If you're doing academic, you get 30 out of 40. Okay, so you can make some mistakes. Okay, pie chart. When we count percentages, when we talk about 2 slices of the pie, coal and wind make up around 90%. You can say that, but often in the pie chart, you have different things like different energy sources. You probably need to talk about each one. But yeah, you can add it up, yeah, if you want to. That would be all right. Yes, in the computer test, you can do task 2 first. If you're only finishing task 2 and task 1, yeah, so you need to practice managing both your tasks. Because if you don't finish task 1, even if you do a very good task 2, it will pull down your score. So you need to manage your time. So what I suggest is when you're first learning to do writing, don't worry about the time. Yeah, take your time. But then once you get better at the writing, do it to time. Yeah, so that you can do it within the time. You have to build up your skills slowly. Will the task 2 essay be the same for academic and general? No, the topics are different for academic and general. Still the same type of question, like discuss both views and give your opinion, agree and disagree, advantages, disadvantages, but the topics are different.
Hi, Miss Jackie. So
Yeah,
I guess let's proceed to live Q&A.
Oh, live Q&A. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yes,
I thought, I didn't realize it's live Q&A.
Yeah, there's one. So to all participants, if you wish to ask questions, just raise your hand and we will recognize you. Once called, we will unmute you, and please state your name and where you come from and before stating your question. So we have from Asti Katuratmi. Go ahead.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, Asti.
You can always write it in the chat if you're shy.
Ashti, you have to unmute your mic.
Then we proceed the next one to Miss Ielts Diaz.
Hi.
Hello.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much, Miss Jackie, for the very informative session. So, I'm Kits and I'm from the Philippines. I'll be taking the IELTS next week and I'm very, very nervous. So, I just like to ask for some general tips that you can give maybe for all the examiners, examinees, I mean.
Is it about the writing test or?
Oh, in general.
In general. So if your test is next week, so between now and then, I would already be practicing like whole papers if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just so you feel more comfortable about managing the time. Yeah. And with the speaking, it's really good to find a friend to practice with. You can find a lot of the questions online to practice with, so you don't feel so. It's not such a shock when you do the speaking test. And with the writing, yeah, I would, if you can, between now and next week, try to do like, you probably can't do all the tests every day, but at least try to do maybe 2 hours a day,
Okay.
like a writing test and a reading test, something like that. And then the next day, listening and speaking. Yeah. So at least you feel confident and that you can manage the time. I think that would be my tip.
All right. Thank you so much.
I hope you get the bad score you need.
Thank you.
Go very well.
Thank you. Thank you. Please stay safe.
Thank you, Miss Diaz.
Take care.
Next, we have questions from Ian Koo. Please state your name and where you come from.
Hello, good evening. Well, whatever time it is over there. My name is Ian. I'm from Malaysia, but currently taking the IELTS in Singapore. Hello. So, one question that I tend to have is because previously there were people asking about whether it would be all right to use either British English versus American English. Personally, for me, I find that, for lack of a better word, I tend to flip-flop between, both standards of English. And I was just wondering whether I need to be aware of this, whether I need to be writing in one standard of English, and whether this will affect my score or not.
I mean, it's international English, so it doesn't matter whether you use British or American. It also doesn't really matter if you mix them. It's just a little odd, but it's okay. Like, it also depends what band score you need. What do you need?
Personally, I'm shooting for something like an 8 for writing.
Yeah, so I mean, it shouldn't matter. Like, you can use both. It's just that if you can stick to one, if you're going for a really high score with your writing, maybe try to stick to one. Yeah, but what do you mean by flip-flop? How much do you? Because if you're from Singapore or Malaysia, it tends to be British English.
Yeah, so it's just personally because of my own experiences talking with a lot of people overseas. I tend to use certain American spellings nowadays. For example, I tend to like color. For example, color, favor. I tend to accidentally use the wrong the wrong quote unquote spelling.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Right.
Won't make a difference because it's international English. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
But I guess if you spelled it one sentence color with a U and then the next sentence you spelled it color without the U, that would be a bit strange.
Right, okay.
So just stick to one. Like if you're spelling color that way, spell it all the way like that.
All right, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ian. Next, we have Mohammed Ahmed. Please state your name and where you come from.
Hello.
Hello, yes, my name is Mohammed. I am from Cambodia. I had the IELTS exam last week and I got an 8 in speaking, but unfortunately in reading I got 5.5. So what's your advice about getting high in the reading module?
Was it academic or general?
Yes, academic. I got overall band 7, but the problem with me only the reading section.
So when you do practice tests, have you done practice reading tests?
Yes, I did a lot of reading tests, maybe more than 15 or 20, but I did not notice any progress.
Oh, okay. So when you do your practice, you also can't get like a high score.
Sorry?
When you practice, when you do the reading practice test.
Yes.
How how many can you get out of 40?
The coach, I got most of the thing. I got mostly 6.5 or 6 because I do on the online computer-based one, not paper test.
Right. Okay. So what's really good to do is when you get it wrong, you need to go back and work out why. Why did you get it wrong? So you can do that yourself. Like we call it reverse engineering. So you go back and work out, okay, why did I get that wrong? What did I miss? So therefore you learn from your mistakes because there's no point in just practicing tests.
Yes, I did a lot of practice tests, but I spent, for example, 1 hour to practice test and maybe nearly 1 hour or less than 1 hour to analyze the questions and the answers, which one I got wrong and something like that. Then when I have to do the test again, the same. I see the academic reading, it is difficult. It's most difficult.
Yeah, but can you work out why you're getting it wrong? I mean, when you did your analysis, like you said, why are you getting it wrong?
Sometimes I see the answer. I know which paragraph I should read. And I read it once, twice, and I don't know what's the answer. Where is the answer? Maybe it's hiding or something like that, but it's really it's difficult. That's why when I applied for the university, some universities ask for band not later than 6, and I got the only one is 5.5
Right.
rating.
So yeah, so it seems like, have you done like, you might need to do some like work either with a textbook or with a teacher just on that test. Sometimes people do need to do that.
And I will try to do that, but I do the whole thing like self-studying. I did not.
Okay.
I just
So
get the advice from any professor or teacher, then I apply it.
So if you look on the IDP website, they do have like links to courses like and teachers. So maybe if you really can't work out why you're doing it wrong, you might need someone to show you, you know what I mean, work with you. Sometimes it's like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Next, we proceed to Miss Natasha Mann. Please state your name and where you come from.
Hello, my name's Natasha and I'm from Glasgow.
Hi.
You mentioned my name a few times there. I have 2 questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
I'll be taking my IELTS test on Saturday, and I'm a little bit worried about 2 things actually. One is my strong Glaswegian accent, and secondly, because I'm a primary teacher in Thailand, I'm used to the British English, but because I teach American English, I seem to be, again, going back and forward with spelling.
It's fine. I mean, both of those things, because it's not about your accent, because we all have an accent. It's about, I mean, I have this weird hybrid Australian Singaporean accent. It's to do with your clarity of speech. So yeah, I mean, if you think, so you probably don't want to slip into your really strong, like the way you speak with your friends. But if you speak the way that you speak, you know, in a more professional setting, then your accent is fine. Like when I hear it now, it sounds fine.
Yeah, because I need the lowest mark I can get is a band 8. I want to move to Australia to be a primary teacher there, so.
Yeah, so I think it's not about the accent, but just be mindful that you don't sort of, some people when they relax, they slip into their more casual speech. So just be really mindful about being really clear with your enunciation. And then what was the other? Oh, the flip-flopping. I think don't worry about that as long as the spelling is correct.
Yeah.
And
even if I'm going for a band 8, that's not a problem.
No, because it's still international English. It's still an English spelling. But I just wouldn't, like I was saying to Ian, like if you write color with the British spelling, then you keep using that. If you use that word again, don't change the spelling.
Oh yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for your help.
Just be consistent, I guess. Yeah, but yeah. Well, I hope it all goes well.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Natasha. We have to accept the last 3 questions, live questions. First, we have from Sayathira Hanim. Please state your name and where you come from.
Hello, my name is Hanim. I'm from Malaysia. I would like to ask you, is it true if we want writing at least band 7, we should write part 2 more than 250? Even though they stated that reach to at least 250. So in order to get band 7, we need to write more than 250, maybe 300 something. And for part 1, maybe we should reach 200 words to get the band.
That's not officially the case at all. So you have to reach the minimum. But I guess people would say that because if you can write a little bit more, it allows you to, like some of the models I showed you, they were longer than 250. because it allows you to expand more and develop your reasons more, but you don't have to. It's not like you must, in order to get 7, you must. No, it just maybe if you can write a bit more, then you can give a fuller answer, but you don't have to, definitely not. Yeah.
Okay, one more. Do you have an experience the students would like to recheck their writing?
To have it remarked?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is possible. So they have inquiry on results. So it's not free, but you can pay for it to be remarked. Yeah, and then if the next examiner marks it higher, you'll get that score. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Well, best wishes.
Thank you.
Next class, we have Danica Malonga. Please state your name and where you come from. Hi, Danica. Please unmute. Okay, I think we proceed to the next one. We have Mamluk Rezekina. Please state your name and where you come from. Mamluk, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. So, yeah, I'm Mamluk Rezekina. I come from Indonesia. So, I will ask about the first one in particular. I got some resources that we have to write some summary in the last body. But some of them that I got, like the Simon perhaps it will be put in the second after intro.
Is this for the task one? Task one, your overview?
Task one. So,
academic.
Yeah, academic task one. I read from the Cambridge book, especially for the task one. That I read overview will be put in the last paragraph. It's in summary perhaps, but some of them in the second perhaps before beginning to body one. And
yeah, that's fine.
Which one is proper, or which one is the best way to?
Oh, both are fine. There's no rule like you have to put it second or you have to put it last. As long as you have the overview, you must have the overview, but whether you have it after the introduction or whether you have it at the end, both are totally fine. Yeah. And then your overview should not have numbers in it, should not have data. Yeah. But both are okay, whatever you prefer.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll be asking the last question from this live Q&A from Sobana Balakrishnan. Please state your name and where you come from.
Hi, Jacqueline. This is
Hello.
Sobana from
Hi.
Malaysia.
Hi.
I'll be taking a general test next weekend. So I'm actually very, very concerned about my writing task too. So I did ask earlier regarding the topics or the essays between academic and general tests if they are the same. So you did clarify that the topics are different, but do you know like what kind of topics do we focus more or try to read on more? Like a general, like animals or travels?
So yeah, so I didn't really cover this, but in IELTS task 2, there are some topics that come up both for academic and general. So it's good to, but if you're following the news and you're kind of knowing what's going on in the world, you should be fine. Like you don't have to be a specialist. So the topics that often come up are things like the environment, education, culture, sport, health, pollution, that's like the environment, yeah, traffic sometimes, technology. These kinds of general knowledge themes come up. And if you're following the news and you're thinking about things that are happening in the world, you should be fine. The other thing you can do is, if you're doing with IDP, if you go to the Ielts Essentials materials, also you can Google and look for the common Ielts topics or recent Ielts topics, and you can see what the recent topics have been. So you get an idea. But the topics are not so specialized. Like the ones I showed you, it wasn't like you need like detailed facts. You just have to have opinions and ideas.
Okay.
Yeah, but following the news is good. It's very helpful.
Okay. I'm sorry, but I do have another 2 more questions if you don't mind. I always have this confusion of discussion and opinion essay. I mean, I tend to get it wrong that, you know, if it was an opinion, I would have thought it was a discussion. And if it was discussion, I would have thought it was an opinion. So are the formats for both actually the same? I'm just worried that I might be out of the topic, you know.
So the trick is, if it says, do you agree or disagree, that's opinion. And if it says advantages, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, that's opinion. Because you have to say, I think. As long as you're saying, I think, right? That's your opinion. But if it says something like, why do you think this is happening? And what can you suggest? Or like, what are the problems? What are the solutions? This is not your opinion. This is discussion.
Okay.
Can you see the difference? And then the other one is the one with both. So discuss both views and give your opinion. So then it's both.
Okay. So we have to read the questions
but
very
the
carefully.
most important thing, yes, always just look at those instructions at the bottom part, the second part, and just do what it tells you to do. Then you'll stay on the topic.
Okay. The last one is just shooting. I just want to know, do you have any idea, like, you know, what kind of type of essay might come out?
No, because the thing is now it's even harder to predict because of computer delivered. There are topics every day.
Okay.
There's a different topic every day. So it's, in the past it was easier. So maybe they haven't had a map for a while. Maybe it'll be a map. So, but now it's kind of impossible, I think.
Okay. All right. Anyway, it was a very informative webinar. So thank you very much, Jacqueline.
My pleasure. Thank you for your questions, everybody. Great questions.
Thank you very much. That's the end of our live Q&A.
Patrick.
So
Thanks,
we have
everybody.
Yes, Miss Jackie, we have some questions from the chat. First question is from Mohan. Is the Cambridge IELTS book enough as a prep material? Does that cover all the things discussed today?
Cambridge IELTS prep book. Is that what you said?
Yes, Cambridge IELTS book.
Well, it depends which Cambridge IELTS book, because there are many books, but the one with the past papers, that's very good to practice, but it won't give you like tips. It won't teach you how to do it. But if you're using some of the Cambridge IELTS preparation books, they're very good. They're very comprehensive. Yeah.
Mohan has a follow-up answer for that. 14th edition of the Cambridge prep
14th?
book. 14th edition.
Oh, see, they're the past papers. So they're very good to practice with because they're the real past tests. But they don't give you, they don't teach you how to do it so much. Yeah, so you can't, I mean, if you're wanting to learn the techniques, you might need more than that. Yeah,
Next.
You might need to get a textbook, for example. Yeah.
Thank you. Next, we have another question. Will it be a big disadvantage or reduction on grade if I cannot reach the 250 words?
Yeah, it does affect your score somewhat. And also it will, it probably means that you don't have enough ideas, like the depth of your essay won't be as good. So really practice reaching that. The way to do it is think of more reasons and more examples when you brainstorm.
Thank you. Next, Sir Jonathan is asking, what are usually speaking questions being asked and what are the tips on how to answer them?
Oh, speaking. Speaking is another whole thing. So speaking has 3 parts. So the first 2 parts are about you, And there'll be questions about you. So it could be like your family, could be, well, not really family, sorry. Like could be your work, could be your pets, could be your school. Yeah. And then the second part, you talk on a topic for 2 minutes, but it's also about you. So it could be like your favorite film. It could be like, what else could it be? A place you visited. Yeah. And then the third part is general topics. So the third part is a bit more like the essay. So the third part can be things like, it's connected to part 2. So part 2, you talked about your school, your primary school. Then part 3 will be talking about schools, but not you personally, in general, about your country. So the topics in part 3 are usually like a bit like the essay. So education, environment, sports, culture, entertainment, health, what else? Transport, all those kinds of general topics that are often in the news. And the secret is to give reasons and examples in part 3. Speaking is a whole thing on itself. We could spend 2 hours talking about that.
Thank you, Miss Jackie. We have another question from Miss Mary Insign. What kind of books or sources would you recommend to increase our vocabulary?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, vocab, reading in general, just reading widely, reading the newspaper, reading the Guardian newspaper, reading, what other newspapers? The Guardian is very good. The BBC website, that will help. You can also look for apps, like if you look on Google Play or the App Store for like IELTS vocabulary apps. That's a good way to build up your vocabulary as well. But yeah, often it's reading very widely. It's the best. It's not quick. It's not a quick fix with the vocab. You also have to be curious about words. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that is all for tonight. We hope Jacqueline was able to answer all your queries, but if not, please message them to us directly and we will get back to you with a response. Thank you to all for tuning in, and a huge thanks to you, Miss Jacqueline, for walking us through today's webinar and answering your questions. Have a great night all, and goodbye.
Thank you, everybody, for your great questions, and thank you, team, for all your wonderful support. Take care. Keep safe, everybody. Best wishes.